Meditations is perhaps the only document of its kind ever made. It is the private thoughts of the world's most powerful man giving advice to himself on how to make good on the responsibilities and obligations of his positions. Trained in Stoic philosophy, Marcus Aurelius stopped almost every night to practice a series of spiritual exercises reminders designed to make him humble, patient, empathetic, generous, and strong in the face of whatever he was dealing with. It is eminently readable and perfectly accessible. You can't read this book without taking away a word or two that will come in handy the next time you find yourself in trouble. Read it, it is embodied practical philosophy. Who was Marcus then? Marcus, a Roman emperor from 161 to 180 AD, was a practicing Stoic who documented his personal practice in diaries. It is important to keep in mind that Marcus is one of the most admirable leaders in history and someone we should aspire to be like in our own life. The essayist Matthew Arnold stated in 1863 that Marcus was a person who held the greatest and most powerful station in the world, and everyone who knew him agreed that he had proven himself deserving of it. Marcus is regarded by Machiavelli as the final of the 5 good emperors, and the period of his rule as golden time. Marcus Aurelius was unassuming, a lover of justice, hater of cruelty, sensitive and compassionate, according to Machiavelli. Marcus Aurelius had a challenging existence despite his privileges as an emperor. Marcus did not meet with the good fortune that he deserved, the Roman historian Cassius Dio observed, for he was not robust in body and was entangled in a myriad of difficulties for almost his whole reign. But despite all of his obstacles, he persisted. He is a motivating role model for us to consider in the present day whenever we feel worn out, irritated, or faced with a problem. Additionally, between 170 and 180 AD, Marcus wrote 12 books of his private notebooks during those turbulent years, mostly while he was in charge of military operations. They have grown to be among the most significant philosophical works in human history. Marcus Aurelius wrote Meditations with no intended audience in mind, it was meant for his own benefit. And it's ironic to consider that the reason his works are unique is that they weren't ever meant for us to read. The majority of other literary works are performances intended for an audience, not meditation. In actuality, to himself is an approximate translation of their original title, Tar Eis Hoton. Because Marcus Aurelius wrote his Meditations for his own benefit rather than the benefit of the general populace, it is for this reason that it is a rather cryptic work. Stoic exercises can be practiced by writing them down, just as reciting a prayer or song does. It is a collection of brief sayings that range in length from a single sentence to a lengthy paragraph. Although it isn't arranged by theme, a few themes keep coming up, indicating that the author considered them to be the most crucial for us to comprehend and apply to our daily lives. The repetition of themes by Marcus shows how much of Stoicism is just journaling and discussing the same thoughts. You must continuously remind yourself of the goals you have for yourself and who you want to become. This is crucial when you fall short. This is a book of actionable advice, and its teachings were meant to be practiced and used. When Marcus speaks of the certainty of death and how relatively soon it will come, he is not idly philosophizing. He is recommending that this fact advise our decision-making and how we view the events in our lives. Instead of theorizing about what we should do if either there is a guiding intelligence in the universe, or if everything is just atoms, he prescribes one viewpoint that typically follows Stoic thinking and explains why both possible truths would lead to the same best actions and beliefs. In the first book of Meditations, Marcus expresses gratitude to those who had a beneficial impact on his life, with a special emphasis on those who helped him develop the qualities that make a good Stoic. These include valuing reason above all else, avoiding superstition and the influence of sophistry, not being distracted by trivial things, controlling passions and desires, making thoughtful decisions followed by firm commitment to those decisions, being honest and never keeping secrets, and being cheerful in the face of challenges. He provides numerous examples of the character traits he mentions in this first book that are worth studying and heeding. The main topics that go throughout the novel are listed below. This book's 5 key topics include avoiding the pursuit of pleasure and fame, living in accordance with nature and totally embracing nature's course, interacting with others and accepting others' faults, change, death, and the shortness of life. 1. The evil that men do harms you only if you do evil in response. Marcus consciously reminded himself to not take offense at the wrongdoings of others, to rectify them if possible, but to accept it if they were obstinate and would not change. We must never allow our own values to be compromised in our responses to such individuals. Additionally, we should never be shocked by the terrible conduct of others, and should refrain from wishing that men were not what they are, prone to evil acts, as doing so would be to desire for the impossibility. He had the opinion that even when they cause us harm, people make bad decisions out of ignorance of right and wrong. As a result, we should overlook their mistakes. Marcus emphasizes that peaceful coexistence is the natural state for social animals like humans. He compared his relationship to terrible individuals to treating them as various portions of one body. Both good and wicked people are a part of one and the same universal nature, and as such, they should get along and work together. Marcus Aurelius and all other Stoics held the view that we are a part of an intricately interconnected whole, that injuring one person would necessarily hurt them all. He declared, "What harms the hive, harms the bee." The best retaliation, he declared, is not to be like that, which means that when you harm someone else, you harm both the group and yourself. Trying to avoid and dislike wicked individuals is against nature. When we find ourselves passing judgment on others, we should first look inward at our own failings. Then we'll discover that we tend to hold them less accountable. We should concentrate on self-improvement rather than judging and being troubled by others, which sets us up for disappointment and distress. Marcus remarked, "It is a ridiculous thing for a man not to fly from his own badness, which is indeed possible, but to fly from other men's badness, which is impossible. It's silly to try to escape other people's faults. They are inescapable. Just try to escape your own." Additionally, compared to Marcus's day, we know a lot more about other people today because of how hyperconnected and information-driven the world is. We are aware of the arrivals and departures of politicians and celebrities. On whatever our pals do, we receive real-time updates. We receive their texts and images as well as what they post on social media. Without a doubt, this has increased the amount of drama in our lives. We follow the media buzz about it and have ideas about whether so-and-so should have done this. When our pals say this or that, we take offense. There isn't a day that goes by when we don't hear rumors about someone we know. It's a trap, this. This is a deterrent. Marcus was aware of this more than 2,000 years ago. Leave other people's mistakes to their makers, he reminded himself. Never mind what other people are doing or what they are doing incorrectly. You already have a lot on your plate. Consider your own actions and what you might be doing incorrectly. Adjust that. Focus on living your own life as it is. Spying on others is unnecessary, and there is also not enough time to do it. Keep to yourself. 2. Fame and desires are not worth pursuing. Marcus makes it quite clear why pursuing fame and admiration is pointless, and why we should especially stop caring about what people will think of us when we pass away. He draws attention to the fact that so many prominent people have been forgotten, and that those who would pay tribute to a deceased person will soon pass away. He explains that no action is immortal. Consider that as the heaps of sand piled on one another hide the former sands, so in life the events which go before are soon covered by those which come after. No matter how great, fame will always fade into obscurity, and pursuing it just serves to highlight one's vanity. The beauty of things comes from the object itself, not from what people say about it, he further argues, and nothing is improved by praise. It is erroneous to believe that receiving praise will benefit us in some way. Marcus might state, "When you've done well and another has benefited by it, why, like a fool, do you look for a third thing on top, credit for the good deed or a favor in return?" According to Marcus and the Stoics, being a decent person is a person's proper calling. So why on earth do you need praise or a reward for acting morally? You have to do it. Why would you want to be well known? As a result of your talent? As a result of your brilliance? Since you were prosperous? These items are also a component of the job. One of life's hazards is the quest for fame. There are other desires, all of which have the ability to influence our moral behavior. He quotes Theophrastus, a philosopher, who argues that sins committed out of desire are more repulsive than sins committed out of rage. A person who has suffered injury has been wronged. In contrast, a person with great desires disregards the welfare of others because they are motivated by something other than virtue. Despair can result from desires as well. Marcus tackles this in his discussion on prayer, contending that one should not implore the gods to fulfill desires or avert fears, but challenge them to let go of the desire and accept whatever life hands them. 3. The universe is change. The most compelling ideas in Marcus Aurelius's philosophy are those that deal with the universe's everlasting change and the acceptance of death. He points out that although we shall all pass away, the only thing we ever truly lose is the time we are in right now. Early death doesn't lose more to anyone. Both the longest and the shortest lives will come to an end in the same manner and last for all eternity. He also serves as a gentle reminder to enjoy life to the fullest while we still have the chance. Not to live as if you had endless years ahead of you. Death overshadows you. While you're alive and able, be good. Marcus advises that we should take immediate action to arrange our affairs, make the most of our brief existence, and lead fulfilling lives. Thou shalt soon die, and thou art not yet simple, free from disturbances, free from suspicion of being wounded by external things, free from benevolence toward all, nor dost thou yet possession wisdom only in acting justly, the poet wrote. The world we live in requires that substances transform into new things. Marcus applies the principle that nothing turning into anything else can ever be damaging to the universe, to anything in the universe, including humanity. Nothing that is in line with nature, he claims, is wicked. He even makes fun of our fear of change, especially our fear of dying, adding, "Is any man afraid of change? What can take place without change? What then is more pleasing or more suitable to the universal nature? And canst thou take a bath unless the wood undergoes a change? And canst thou be nourished unless the food undergoes a change? And can anything else that is useful be accomplished without change?" Problems are created in the mind. We can fully accept the course of nature and concentrate on practicing virtue because we are superior to both pain and pleasure. The true cause of any discomfort we encounter is not the events themselves, but rather how we interpret them as being problematic. Marcus was of the opinion that a person might instantly erase any distressing memories from their mind and find serenity. Additionally, he advised keeping in mind the following points any time we feel anxious. Let not future things disturb you, for you will come to them, if it should be necessary, having with you the same reason which you now use for present things. We are never completely wounded by events if we don't allow them to make us into terrible individuals. When he says, "It's a wonderful explanation. Whatever anyone does or says, I must be good, just as if the gold, or the emerald, or the purple were always saying this, whatever anyone does or says, I must be emerald and keep my color." Or, as he stated in what would later rank among meditation's most famous statements, "Choose not to be harmed and you won't be harmed. You haven't been hurt, therefore don't feel that way." Even though situations can make people lose their composure and behave immorally, the events themselves do not injure people, rather, it is their response to the events that does. And when it comes to issues, Marcus has a solution: the ability to turn them on their heads. He began to write, "Our actions may be impeded... but there can be no impeding our intentions or dispositions. Because we can accommodate and adapt. The mind adapts and converts to its own purposes the obstacle to our acting." And then he concluded with powerful words destined for maxim. "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Acting as though there is always a reverse clause or an alternative path to take to get your destination, so that setbacks or issues are never unavoidable and always predicted, ensuring that what hinders us may also empower us. These were not empty words coming from this specific man. A nearly perpetual state of war, a terrible plague, possible infidelity, repeated and exhausting travel across the empire from Asia Minor to Syria, Egypt, Greece, and Austria, rapidly depleting treasury. An inept and greedy stepbrother as co-emperor, and on would all be part of his roughly 19-year reign. 5. Your rational mind is your greatest asset. Marcus understood that our capacity for reason is what distinguishes us from other animals, and that it is a valuable quality that we should make the most of. Like all Stoics, he thought that our reason could be utilized to comprehend the underlying logic of nature, which would enable us to accept it even in the face of seeming damage. Our logical minds have complete control over our opinions, and mental anguish only occurs when the mind generates a desire for a particular course of action in life. Marcus was also the author of these words. You have authority over your thinking, not outside circumstances. Marcus had more control over his environment than most people. Realize this and you'll gain courage. According to Marcus, our mind is an entity that entirely controls itself and is disconnected from the outside world. It cannot be touched by events unless it actively chooses to be affected. Every appearance is the product of the mind's desire for it to appear that way, and the mind creates the exact reality it desires. Since nature has given us the tools to logically accept the path of events no matter where they lead us, there is no reason we shouldn't concur with nature, given that this is the case. 3 valuable meditation takeaways. Meditations teach us that our brains are very powerful, which is the most important lesson to learn. We always have the option to choose goodness and to choose how we interpret events. If we put into practice, we can instantaneously forget any negative memories. We have total power over our ideas and behaviors. Keep in mind these 2 sayings. You have control over your thoughts, not outer circumstances. Realize this and you'll gain courage. The obstacle to action promotes action. What gets in the way eventually becomes the way. People will always commit terrible, or at least unpleasant, acts, for which we are entirely accountable to ourselves. Even in the presence of evil, we have the option to choose goodness. When someone hurts us, we can respond with kindness, trying to correct them if we can, but accepting it if they choose not to. We must instantly take into account the viewpoint of the person who has offended us, keep in mind that we are also flawed, and reply positively and without regard to any alleged injury. The deepest lesson in meditations is about how fleeting life is, and how mortal we are. We are soon going to be replaced, therefore we shouldn't waste our time being upset. With the unknown amount of time we have left, we should concentrate on doing good for others. We must routinely consider the idea that we shall pass away if we want to make this a part of our existence. Death should be faced, despite how painful it may be to consider, because doing so can lead to some of the most profound understandings currently available to humanity. Consider the people who came before us, what is left of them today, and what will be left of us in the future.